Right, we seem to be nearing an end game of sorts in this tussle between the BCCI and the Lodha panel. Desh Gaurav Sekhri, an expert in sports law, is joining me for some thoughts. This legal strategy of the BCCI, this strategy in general, was fraught with danger, Gaurav, and we seem to be heading towards a clash that won't end well for them.
Yeah, I think it's a complicated setup that we're looking at. We're looking at two different authorities in this entire mess. So what I think the BCCI is trying to do, and so far doing quite effectively, is going towards the legislature and not the judiciary. So by getting Justice Karju on board and having him talk about judicial overreach, I have a feeling that what they're going to veer towards is a system where they get the sports bill passed, which will be a much softer sports bill than was originally a contentious one, and then they'll take the support of saying that we are going with the legislature and not with the judiciary, which should in any case not be involved with sports, and then things will really come to an head.
Let's look now though at the immediate. The BCCI have now been given till October 6 to actually go back to court and offer their response to what were some pretty scathing observations by the Supreme Court and Justice Lodha, who's speaking on record as well. What's your sense? Do they have any legal remedies available? For instance, they have filed for a review. What happens there? Does that mean that the review can actually be in the process of being heard while the order has to be implemented?
Yes, so I think they're taking advantage of the ambiguity because there's so many dates which are floating around, and I think the biggest date actually is January 17th, and that is when the Chief Justice of India retires. And at that point, they feel that if they can stretch this long enough, there's a chance that a full review may, in fact, be on the cards. At which point, them not having complied may not seem that foolhardy.
Gaurav, let's talk a little bit about the here and now. October 6th is the BCCI's deadline to get back to the Supreme Court on this latest intervention. Now, what do you expect happening there? I know it's hard to predict, but the court doesn't seem to be happy at all with the BCCI. And what can be the outcome if they are found to be in contempt of court?
Well, I think what the court can do is put an immediate stop on any activity from the BCCI, as well as retroactively prevent any of the AGM, SGM decisions that they've taken since July 18th, 2016. But the fact is that since the BCCI has had a trend of not listening at all, there has to be some plan that they have, because otherwise they run the risk of just being forced to shut shop.
Which is quite dire. Also, I think it needs to be understood by the public at large out there that the Lodha panel's work did not finish, isn't it, Gaurav, by just making those recommendations. They're also now empowered actually to go ahead and implement them. So in a sense, they carry the mandate of the Supreme Court.
Absolutely, they're completely in charge here, and everything that they are instructing the BCCI to do within the ruling of the Supreme Court's judgment. I mean, the BCCI must do, and clearly from their summary and status report, that's not been happening.
One final thought, the aspect that Justice Lodha also reflected on, he said that there were permissions given for the BCCI to actually carry on routine work looking at last year at this AGM. They, however, chose to absolutely ignore those and went ahead and did things that they were not permitted to. That defiance has angered, the Lodha panel quite clearly.
Absolutely, and also the fact that on the day when they're actually supposed to be in compliance with the majority of the directives given by the Lodha committee, they're actually conducting an SGM, which means they're clearly not going to be in compliance by the deadlines already allocated.